theory is on this whole LPS, lipopolysaccharide, which is lipo, fats, proteins, glucose. But what I have been thinking is that while we might say it's saccharides, sugars, glucose and fructose and those type of monosaccharides, saccharide sugars, um, lipopoly, multiple sugars, a little bit of protein here and there, and fats. Now, when I look at it into the stomach, it is really the idea of how the creation is made from these substrates that might sound like protein and fat, but it is really the substrate of the sugars, the monosaccharides that's available in the gut, in the stomach, that is being spun by this creative um, bacteria to create even the protein and the fats. Now, that might sound strange, but that's what they are good at. Even in the plant kingdom, we know they are taking carbon dioxide and utilizing it to make the glucose in that whole process of photosynthesis within the actual metabolic chain of photosynthesis, taking in the energy in the night, creating ATP, and then using that to create the sugars. But they are then adding a little nitrogen to create the protein in that same strand. So it's just an up strand that I think is happening here. Now what I want to focus on is this whole concept here of this, what that is going on in our stomach. When you hear people say, and I think they have been saying this for years, that all disease begins in the gut, means we should have been starting every time we are treating the symptoms, which is what we call disease today, the symptoms. We should be looking back into the gut and starting there too. Or concurrently, we should be attacking a problem that is actually in the stomach acidity levels, or the stomach acidity levels has been altered, mutated, dysregulated, whatever the word is. This is what has happened. So when you check out the article on my site, which is on AI Health Insight, link below, you would see this explanation here, which I'm giving you in a discussional paper. All these are conceptual theories from my perspective, which is what I'm using and focusing on to regain my strength and my health as I go forward in the future. So I'm preparing myself with new information, even though it might be conceptual, and it's only conceptual because I do not have the elements to provide that reality in my hindsight eye. But whatever the reality is, that is how I'm seeing it from my point of view. Therefore, when I present this to you, the gut lining is those little pieces below here. This is the gut lining. These are bacterias, right? So these are exposed bacterias here, and these are the little things called the biofilm, or the extracellular matrix, which is when you look at LPS, it's an umbrella just for one bacteria. And when bacteria come together, they create houses, which I call the house of straw, which is biofilm. But when it goes beyond that and you have other congregating bacteria of different sorts, different types, then you might have a community center, which is built with a very stronger platform, which we are referring to as our extracellular matrix. Nevertheless, they are all using the same substrate, same input, which is a high amount of carbohydrates in the refined state. Now you notice, if carbohydrate is bundled with the fiber, it cannot stay in the stomach and ferment. Therefore, it goes along into the small intestine, and that saves it, because the bile coming from your gallbladder, once it hits biofilm, it actually degrades the biofilm, and then the fiber grabs the biofilm particles and goes with it. And that is why it might be advantageous when you are treating with biofilm bacteria, fungus. You need some binder like charcoal or fiber, okra, whatever binder you could get, zeolite, bentonite, clay. You would understand why why the natural doctors and the herbal doctors have always said, when you are killing microbes, you need a binder, activated charcoal, bentonite, clay, mimosa pudica, well, even okra, which is a good binder, and those things to grab onto the dead particles to bring them out, or else these dead particles goes back into your bloodstream and overwhelm the liver, causing you to feel a little bit down under the weather. Even when you are fasting and you have not done it for a while, activated charcoal is very advisable to grab onto those things that comes from the gallbladder and still enters into your small intestine. You need to pull them out at this point in time. You cannot allow them to be reabsorbed again back into the blood flow, except maybe bile salts, but it is worth it sometimes to clean everything out and start afresh. So what you are looking at here is a clear indication from my AI generated image through Bing. Thank you. My indication is what I take, so I'm trying to conceptualize it here, that there is a war going on in your gut. You see the immune systems there. These are the ones, these big balls floating around. That's your immune system. Guys, the heavy loaders, they have the little receptors on them. They have a lot of little things on them there. That's guns and bombs. You'll see sooner or later what it is doing with this. They are noticing some, and those they are noticing is the little red one, these bombs here. They are noticing these, so they could kill these because these are actual microbiome exposed in the open. Now, in the first case, the acidic gut should have killed them, even though they are there. But they are not dying because they have an umbrella called LPS, the low level, the house of straw could survive the acidic stomach, because what they have done, things like H. pylori already knows how to convert a strong stomach acid, which is like pH 1 and 2, into a weaker stomach acid by releasing something that is called urease, and that urease tames down the acid so it doesn't burn those bacteria and they survive. That is H. pylori and its beautiful way of adaptation in an acidic environment, which should not have been happening, but it happened because we allow H. pylori to grow, because we have fed it with so much of glucose, and then it could create these little homes for it to stay and then make more eggs and make more bacteria multiply or replicate and bring them out. So they are being sheltered with their umbrellas. However, the immune system does have a very good clue, sees them and attacks them and could hit them, because the umbrella is a house of straw. Very easy for the wolf to blow down. In this case, the immune system is our wolf. It's blowing at them and it's breaking them down, and that is wonderful. Now the problem comes here when you have this happening. You also start realizing the strategy of the bacteria itself becomes a little more adapted towards the climate, knowing that immune system now starts detecting. It tries to facilitate a faster building structure of a stronger extracellular matrix. So it moves from just LPS, which is the house of straw, into the house of stick, and then into the house of bricks, strengthening itself every time. Now let's assume that you go to the doctor and you have these issues, H. pylori or whatever. They detect it, they give you antibiotics, it works the first time. Same process is happening here. Antibiotics being a big bomb, drops inside and it kills out all those who are where? On the surface of your body. And this will be good and bad bacteria gets dead, they get wiped out. However, those that are in the extracellular matrix, which is these bubbles, that is, you see these bubbles that's leaking out there, those don't get destroyed. They sit in silence, and so they are in the extracellular matrix, the community that is made of this stronger biofilm, and they are waiting for you to put on more glucose, more monosaccharides to spin out better structures. So the house of straw could become a house of stick, and the house of stick could move up to a house of brick. And who's feeding them? Of course, it's me that is feeding them, because I'm the one who's ignorant, or I'm the one who's not so aware that glucose is the main substrate for not just their food but for the creation of the LPS. And therefore, if I remove glucose for a pretty long time, or if I remove the refined sugars, whatever refined sugar, and I move towards a more oil, fatty acids and amino acid based substrate, then I would be doing myself a favor, that I still would be getting my nutrition. In fact, I'll be getting my nutrition now, and I would be not giving them nutrition plus giving them extra substrates to build the house. Substrates here being the raw material to build the house, which is monosaccharides in the biggest context. So the concept of the biofilm here includes this here. This shows you a dome shape structure, just to give you an idea. So if we would have zoomed in here, you see this dome shape structure I'm trying to show you. It looks like this, and therefore the immune system and the antibiotics themselves, they may be able to target, or the immune system being a sensible thing, antibiotics being just a chemical, the immune system sees the bacteria, and so it targets the dome. It targets the bacteria, thinking that it's shooting at the bacteria, but it's not gonna knock the dome, and the dome wouldn't break. And again, we know the dome is the iron dome, so it wouldn't break, and they would be inside there protected. Those that are external, they would get lashed from antibiotics or from immune system. So this is us here. as immune system or antibiotics dropping the big bombs. And what is happening here, they drop the big bombs, but it just bounces out, and when it bounces out, it actually goes and hits the gut lining. The gut lining, or the payload, hits the real gut lining, digging into the gut lining and breaking the first little pieces of cell. And this is happening at the microscopic level, breaking the first pieces of cell that would cause what? Ulceration in your stomach, in your acidic stomach. Of course, once you have that started, it gives the opportunity for the acid to also dig. It gives the opportunity for the bacteria to also manifest themselves and give you gastric ulcers, or ulcers in your stomach and even in your duodenum. Now, this is what is happening here. The antibiotics kills off good bacteria, but the immune system tries to attack, and the payload, the little bomb, does not really go inside here, so it bounces off and it goes to the gut lining, breaking the mucosal lining of the wall, and we have ulcerated stomach. And then we come to this here to understand this. What we were looking at here is the immune system cell. You notice the immune system cell has multiple bombs, and it will continuously just be attacking and attacking, and the guys are here laughing at it because they are saying, you know, he's wasting time, but let him attack, because now they are seeing an advantage to trigger him to attack more. Because when they trigger him to attack more, they are actually getting their work to dig into the intestine, into the lining of the gastric area, the stomach. They are using the immune system to actually attack the lining of the gastric stomach, and hence we refer to these things as autoimmune, meaning that the immune system seems to be shooting bombs at the human body. That is not what's happening at the microscopic level. From my concept and from what I've been seeing, this is not what's happening. The immune system is trying to hit something that is bouncing off the payload. It's bouncing off the little bombs, and that something is largely LPS, lipopolysaccharide, which could be called biofilm or extracellular matrix, based on which part of these three little pigs you are following, whether it's the house of straw, the house of sticks, or the house of bricks. You don't want it to get to the house of bricks because it's a much more difficult task, but some of us are there because we have been vegetarians and high carb diet users. Now the bacteria stay inside there and they wait until the assault, you know, has happened, and then therefore they have also now start saying, let's re-strengthen our dome. So the first thing they do, they strengthen up the dome in the lining of the gut where they start. And second thing that they do, they say, let's now expose some, not to the gut only, but to allow them to move to the duodenum, which is the, as you open the pyloric sphincter, you have the duodenum for I think a few, maybe a feet, I don't know, 6 inches to a feet. The duodenum, which is a rubbery thick piece that could take acidic food flowing from the stomach, that is called the chyme. They go there and start making a house to, for the sake of preservation, because they know they have been under attack. So because of our consciousness, they turn around and start migrating down south, and so they go into the duodenum and it starts having duodenum related issues, or you may have duodenal ulcers, which is a reality for many people. That is just a progressive migration of these guys. Now when you move further down, you start realizing your small intestine becomes SIBO, leaky gut, and those things start creeping into the discussion. Same issue. The reason why, simply put, the gallbladder, which should be spotting out gallbladder and pancreatic juice spotting together, joined together around the odor of splinter of OD, comes down and makes an alkaline substance which should digest fats. LPS is a fat-based substance, and so it should get digested, meaning that LPS, the house which they are carrying as umbrellas to protect themselves, should start to disintegrate. But because we are in such a state of what is called a high carb, high glucose state, the state of the gallbladder is weakened in terms of its flow, because we are not loaded with fats to push enough bile salts or bile down from the gallbladder, squeeze the gallbladder to get out the real structures of bile that has been released by the liver and stored in the gallbladder, concentrated there. That is not happening well, so we do not have proper digestion of fats, meaning we do not have proper breakdown of LPS. and so they go into the small intestine with the umbrella and they survive there for a while. Remember, they just need a little while to replicate. They need a little bit more glucose, and of course, lower down they are getting the glucose because we are eating a lot of glucose laden foods at this point in time, and so they are getting the substrate glucose. They are building over new biofilm, meaning they are structuring, they taking not just umbrellas now, houses for a couple of them to live in the walls of the small intestine. The same process happens. The immune system comes in just as here. Targets the small intestine being so weak, not so weak, so fragile for its absorptive properties, gets damaged, and so you start having LPS, pieces of LPS entering into the bloodstream. That is might be the pieces that have been broken out by semi-digestion, entering into the hepatic portal vein through the villi. You may even have the bacteria themselves who died entering into the hepatic portal vein, going up to the liver. Again, we must pay attention that from small intestine we go to hepatic portal vein. So small intestinal lining, things jump across and it comes to this vein here called hepatic portal vein, and hepatic portal vein takes everything up to the liver for sorting. It's taking everything that comes through for sorting, and that's where the liver starts doing the sorting job of pulling out what is not good and pulling out what is okay and putting it back into the blood, allowing it to go to serve the other parts of the body. When the liver skips something, it does tell the kidney, I didn't do a good job because I was overwhelmed, and that's what we need to pay attention to. If liver becomes overwhelmed with a lot of this LPS going in, the kidney would have to pull out some of it if it is semi dissolvable or soluble in the blood serum. The kidney would have to pull it out. If it goes into the lymphatic system, the kidney would have to pull it out, because it does have a time when the blood cells goes down into the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes do some pulling out, and then they send back the blood in a clean way, and that lymph node pulling out, that doesn't put nothing back in the blood, it pulls it into the lymphatic system for the kidney, towards the kidney. That's why we have lymph throughout the body at those glandular sites, and that's the importance of the lymph nodes to clean the blood, take the nastiness, put it into the lymph fluid, which is the waste product system, and send it to the kidney, which is like a big lymph, a big cleaner of both blood and lymph. So it's the same pattern with the kidney, same pattern with the lymph nodes, and they are cleaning. Now, so if you're in the small intestine, it's the same pattern, but we need to understand that it's one pattern. But if you understand it from the gut, then you could relate it to your small intestine, so you could relate it to leaky gut. All that turns to be what is called autoimmune attacks, autoimmune condition, because the immune system comes, tries, sees the bacteria because they literally goes to target the immune system. They get outside and they send a few outside as how we call it, when you put sacrificial lambs, they send them out, and the immune system comes and the immune system targets them, and then the immune system realizes something is wrong, so it starts shooting, but the rest stays inside that biofilm, that little place here where the bombs just bounce off and breaks into the lining of the small intestine, the large intestine, wherever the parasites are, well, the bacteria are, and so we have these little linings being damaged and things are escaping through the leaky gut. And so when we understand that, whether it is in the acidic stomach, whether it is in the small intestine, we now understand in the whole digestive tract, we are allowing, because of our dietary strategies, we have allowed these guys to overpopulate, one, to create LPS, to create extracellular matrix to protect themselves, because we have been feeding them the substrates, and now we have them going into the body. Now in my next video, I'll show you what happens into the body, starting from the liver down to the pancreas, down to your knees with the joint pain, to your brain, which is the diabetic tree, I think Alzheimer's or whatever. So all these things could be seen in the point of view of LPS first. Thinking when we are trying to treat the symptoms, we have to go to LPS first. When you understand how to get rid of or deal with LPS, you might get some relief from your troubles. So thank you for viewing, and see you in my next broadcast.